Hey, test. Okay. Looks like we're good. I'm just gonna send out a stream announcement and get underway. Okay, so yeah, this stream slash video, once it gets over on YouTube, is gonna be slightly different than my usual just kind of playthroughs that I have. This one's aimed a little more at talking Beyond the Sun strategy and specifically kind of the tech tier list, but as I thought about ranking the techs and talking about all the techs, which I think is a very useful way to talk about and think about the game, I realized a lot of the discussion, though, around the techs doesn't really make sense without the context of what you're really trying to do in the rest of the game. As such, I think I need to spend 5 minutes or so here and cover kind of the basics of how I tend to play Beyond the Sun and what I'm trying to achieve, what formats I'm tending to play, and therefore that gives insight into how and why I'm going to rank things later. Uh, so yeah, I've pulled up a sample game that I just recently played. It's part of a tournament. I'm playing people that are rated significantly lower, and that's fine. That's not really the important bit. The important bit of why I've pulled this game as just a kind of random example from recent is that this game I was able to kind of just do the main things that I consider that you want to do if I was able to do the main things that kind of lead to a strong win, and specifically what that is in the early game of Beyond the Sun, I believe you should be researching techs and getting to tech twos. And fairly early in the game, you want to figure out how to get rid of the first two plant discs on your track. A lot of times this will be via automation. You'll see I have two early plant discs this game that got automated. Those are my only plant discs actually that got automated. And you'll see at the end of the game here, my plant track is actually very not been touched. The reason that we want to get rid of these early plant discs is that by getting rid of two early plant discs, you can now produce people from your A and B column. And so you can produce two people a turn. And if you can do this during the couple of opening turns, you can build up a bunch of people. And then hopefully you can focus the rest of the game on just making ore and basically survive with those people for the rest of the game. You can't always do this. You have to do some other things, etc. Like, it's a game. Nothing is like you can't just follow a script. But producing people turns out to be pretty important. It's hard to once you like turn a bunch of these early people into ships and other things. It can be really hard to get enough discs down to keep making people at the end of your turns. And so it's hard in this game if you don't have people to come up with population. So getting to produce people early is one of our main goals of the early game. The mid to late game, we often want to produce a lot of rock. And so later, things that automate rock or help us produce lots of rock are great because we want to be spending lots of rock to research higher level techs. Researching higher level techs tends to be the winning strat, is just research a lot of technologies and win the race to researching tech 4s. In this example game that I'm showing, we have somebody that did a nice colonization game plan. They colonized their 4 planets, they reached Empire, they even also won Warlord, which is a nice achievement to go for as part of a colonization strat, because you're going to want a bunch of ship strength anyhow. And so this was a really nice plan, nice game plan. They executed it pretty well, and they still lost to me by a good margin. The other players did a little bit of colonization, but they failed to hit Empire, they failed to transcend, and by doing neither of those things, they're quite behind. I focused on just hitting the techs hard, researching a lot of techs, and then hitting the tech 4s for hitting Transcendence first and getting big bonus points. This game I actually got 2 tech 4s. I would not claim that that's standard, but it certainly is possible in some games. And anyhow, I have a pretty big win on the back of that. So that's kind of the game plan. The game plan is early game. We want to get we want to figure out a way to get out a couple discs. We want to produce our people, and then we want to focus on the tech track. Since we're focusing on the tech track, in order to have a reasonable economy, we really value automation. Automation is how we gain economy. The automation track itself is worth a good number of points also. I have the most automation points in this game, and that's, a slightly hidden area of like green, for example, has only one automation point to my five. So, even though he has so many other colonization things, I have a few extra points right there on him. So anyhow, yeah, early game we want to produce people. Mid game we want to produce. Mid to late game we tend to want to produce a lot of rocks. We'll scrounge people as need be using some extra tricks. And mostly we want to prioritize researching texts. So we like texts that help us research, and we like texts that give us automation. And yeah, the goal in most games is to transcend relatively early and try to hit some other achievements along the way, if possible. And some of these endgame bonuses, if they show up. Some of these endgame bonuses you can also score a good amount off of. Anyhow, that's kind of the basics of Beyond the Sun strategy and what I'm trying to achieve. I tend to achieve a lot of that in many games. You can't always. You have to be tactically flexible. Again, I think it's a fairly interesting game, but I do think a lot of people make mistakes by not pursuing the right overall strategy and by not picking the right techs as they're researching up the tree to have the best game. And so that's why I'm going to now spend much of the rest of this talking about the technologies individually and kind of making a tier list of them. Now, a tier list alone is not perfect, right? We can't always pick the tech that I say is best in a vacuum and expect it to actually be better than our other pick, right? Sometimes there's going to be scenarios where a lower tier pick is actually better, but it's hard to identify those, and there's some use in having a list to generally understand what the stronger ones are and why. So I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover that in just a sec. I think we can go off of this view now and just start looking at the various technologies and discussing them. Yeah, that feels reasonable. So, okay. We have all the text of the game here, courtesy of BGA. Now, I should note that before I fully dive into the tier list, a few things out of the way. One, why would you listen to me? Well, I'm fairly good at Beyond the Sun. I'm currently rated. I've been rated in the top 10 on BGA for quite a while now, ever since learning the game earlier this year, and I'm starting to have some like tournament success too. So, I don't think I'm the best Beyond the Sun player, but I feel pretty confident in my calling myself an expert level player. I do tend to play 3-player or 4-player Beyond the Sun. I do think 2-player has a different tier list of what's important and what's valuable. 2-player is a bit funky because you play to 3 achievements still, even though there's only 2 people. Whereas at 3-player, you still only play to 3 achievements, and 4-player, you play to 4 achievements. So 2-player games tend to go longer, and you need to... Yeah, they tend to be a bit different. The map is also a bit different. And the fact that there's only one opponent really changes kind of things. So I'm mostly making this tier list with like 3 to 4-player games in mind. It does change a bit at various player counts. Also, that whole strategy thing that I just covered, much of the reason that I suggest the strategy I do is that, especially in 4-player games, colonization-based strategies can be a little bit scary because you need to put your ships on a planet and then on a future turn colonize, but in between you have 3 opponent actions that can mess that up and take control of your planet away from you, making you unable to colonize. Also, sometimes there's only so many colonization action spaces, and occasionally you can get blocked from those too, which makes it a little bit scarier, where it's harder to get totally blocked on research actions usually. There's just more spaces to do like Tech 2 researches and stuff. So anyhow, so yeah, mostly I play a lot on BGA, and I'm explicitly talking about like the base game. We're talking about base game with the base factions. We're not talking the advanced faction size. We're not talking the advanced tech format, which, for the record, I don't really like the advanced factions nor the advanced faction, the advanced tech options. I don't think they're particularly good variants, and I don't really think they should be played. Finally, most of my games are played with the revised technologies. There's 4 techs that are revised. I've got updated that most games on BGA now use, and I think the updates are a really good plan. But I will be ranking. I'll be ranking both versions of those techs. I'll talk about the original version of the tech that you still get printed in the base game, along with the revised card that's in the expansion. So yeah, we have all that. All right, with all that out of the way, I think we can actually start ranking things and talking through stuff. So I'm going to try to make this thing I'm talking about huge. So level 1 tech, we have terraforming. Ranking the level 1 techs is a little bit weird because they're just on the board, right? So I don't know that ranking them makes a ton of sense, but I'll talk about the nuances of them quickly. Talking about the other techs, I think, makes a little more sense in terms of if you're the one that researches first, you get 2 options, and you're picking which option you want. And picking which option you want is, part of the skill of the game. If, picking the better one, the more synergistic one, and actually exploiting that as part of the rest of your game plan. The level 1 techs are a little more of like, why would you research this and where does it lead? But it's still useful to talk about them, so terraforming. Terraforming immediately lets us turn a cube into a 1 ship. And then it gives us an action to jump 4. Jump 4 is one of the most powerful jump effects of the game, and that has a very basic colonization option. First off, the immediate benefit. The immediate benefit of terraforming is actually not particularly good. In fact, it's kind of bad early. Looping into the fact that our strategy is trying to unlock the ability to generate humans off of our A and B columns as quickly as possible, we actually don't really like effects like this early, because what they do is they take one of our boxes from our A or B column and turn it into a ship. And instead, we really would like to turn all of our boxes in the A and B column into humans. So ideally, you don't research terraforming early. Terraforming early. Ideally, you can deplete your A and B columns of humans, and then you research terraforming later, and now that's taking a box out of like your C column, which is a lot harder to deplete. Whereas if you research terraforming early, you're taking a box out of your A column, and that difference matters. A lot of times in the early game, if you research terraforming, it often means that you're just producing 1 less human on some later production action. So instead of saying box to ship, it often really reads human to ship, and that's not very good. That's the actual kind of downside of terraforming. The jump 4 action is reasonable. However, it's very easy to get distracted in Beyond the Sun by moving around too much. Moving doesn't actually get you any points directly, really. You can get a few points in the end game for controlling certain locations, but you don't really. The main thing that moving does is allows you to place a few discs down, but it's often temporary. So you only get a little bit of economy. The main reason to move around is to basically be setting up colonization actions. And as we've talked about, we're not that excited about colonizing in general, especially in 3 and 4 player games where other people can kick us around. There are definitely times and places for it, but it's easy to get too excited about Jump 4 also. Now, sometimes Jump 4 and just putting a bunch of ships onto various spots can be a useful economic move, and people won't kick you off particularly quickly. So there's that. And then finally, actually colonizing is fine. If you have the ships on a planet and you can colonize it, some of them have good bonuses, they have good points, they do help your economy. It's just going to be kind of hard to set up in an efficient way. Taking a whole action to move stuff on and then paying 3 rocks and losing a human and losing at least 3 ship worth of power and losing that ship's positioning, that's a lot. It's a lot to pay. So it's often not that good of a 2-turn sequence without some other help. So anyhow, terraforming on the whole is only okay, but I think it's actually the worst level 1 tech, as we will talk about. It might be only the second worst, but anyhow, I don't love researching terraforming. The other thing that terraforming has is it has this yellow arrow, right? So we'll talk about this more when we start looking at the Tech 2s and the Tech 3s, but The short answer is we don't actually like a lot of the yellow. We don't love a ton of the yellow twos. And so the thing that it leads into is not particularly good either. And so that's a big issue for terraforming. Now, on the other hand, advanced genetics, spoiler alert, is going to be our best level 1 tech. Advanced genetics automates a plant disc and it makes a human. Our goal in the early game is to get a bunch of humans out. Even if it's not our goal in the early game, this is like just always a pretty good thing. It automates a disc, which is great. It's points and economy. It gives us a human back immediately. Great. And that plant disc makes it easier to produce more humans. You eventually need to produce humans. Furthermore, the green twos also tend to be very good. And most games, you'll see the first move of the first player is to research advanced genetics. And I think that's often correct. Because round 2, you're hoping to research another thing that automates another plant disc, and then you start producing your people right away and get all that people production going. And it just tends to be very strong. So that one's very good. Narrow laser beams. Narrow laser beams we're going to call the second worst level 1 tech, but it could be argued that it's actually the worst. Narrow laser beams gives you an immediate rock, and it upgrades one ship by 1 level. The immediate thing is fine. It's not a particularly great effect, but 1 rock is a decent benefit, and one strength of ship is okay. The thing is, only 1 ship strength doesn't often do that much for you. Every once in a while it does, in which case this becomes a more exciting take, but the action that it provides itself is also not particularly good. People get excited by this one, but they really shouldn't. You are paying a rock and paying a human for a 2 ship and then get to jump 3. That human is a really big cost. Again, it's hard to generate people. You need to keep placing people in order to research tech, or mostly you need to use people in order to colonize. You could occasionally get to a point where you're colonizing without spending people, but the human resource, like the person resource, is very valuable, and turning it into a ship is really pretty painful to your actual economic goals. So narrow laser beams action is a thing you don't actually want to take particularly often. A 2 ship in particular, you'll note, is not enough to colonize any system. The minimum cost is 3. So even if you're trying to use narrow laser beams to produce ships, and then you're going to go to terraforming to colonize stuff, you're not producing enough strength to keep colonizing. So you're gonna run out. So anyhow, yeah. A lot of the red 2s are also not really what we're looking for. Most of the red techs like make ships or move ships about, and as we've said, that's not really our focus. And so as such, we're not that excited about researching narrow beam lasers. Finally, we have advanced robotics. Advanced robotics is the second best. Robotics is the second best level 1. Advanced robotics gives us a rock, and it automates rock production, gives us a ore automation. This is great. We eventually want to automate our rocks. We want to make lots of rocks. This is a great level 1 tech. Furthermore, the blue arrow is great. It leads us into a lot of good things in the blue 2 deck. In particular, the blue 2 deck has a lot of ways to research 3s. And we really like to find some of those things that help us research 3 techs more efficiently. First off, you don't know when the basic tech level 3 research action becomes available. It doesn't have to become available for quite a while. It eventually shows up when somebody researches the right level 2, but you don't know when that's going to be. And then also 4 rocks plus pay a human for researcher level 3 is pretty expensive. It can be hard. It can be really hard to make that payment work. So finding better ways to research is very valuable. This is what that blue arrow is going to get us. So, yeah. All right, now we're into the tech level 2s, and the first tech level 2 that we have to talk about is hypercomputing. I'm just taking them in order that BGA shows them to be in the card list. I'm just going to scroll on by. So hypercomputing tells us to automate a rock, and then it gives us a way to research level 3 text. It costs 4 rocks, but not that extra human. As we've covered, humans are a very valuable resource. So this thing helps us make rocks and then gives us a very efficient way to spend those rocks to research level 3s. Hypercomputing is very powerful. It is a key card that I'm often looking for when I'm researching a level 2 blue. I'm often hoping to hit hypercomputing. Hypercomputing is one of the best cards to find in the level 2 deck. You should almost always be taking hypercomputing when you see it. There are scenarios where you don't want to, but almost always you want hypercomputing. Automating a rock symbol, again, is great, and just researching tech 3s is great. So hypercomputing is a big thing that we're fishing for out of the blue deck. Human experiments, on the other hand, is one of the worst things you're going to find if you're hunting blue techs. You're generally sad to see human experiments. The immediate effect of upgrading 2 ships by 1 level is okay, but sometimes you don't even have 2 ships, right? Sometimes you only have 1 ship on the board, so you can't even fully use this. But also, ship strength is not a thing that we value that highly. This only gives us a little bit of ship strength. We still have to move those ships in order to put them in position, and then we'd have to actually colonize or something in order to really get value out of them. I mean, maybe they give us some temporary production, but we'd much rather just have an automate, which is guaranteed production plus points, and we don't get that. As for the actions here, these actions are very human intensive. They use up a lot of population. And as we're kind of covering, our main idea is that it's hard to generate population in this game. So paying lots of population is painful. With that said, there are scenarios where paying 2 humans and then a 3rd human to actually research, but no rock cost, can work out. There are rare game plans where human experiments is actually pretty exciting because you have lots of automated plants and you can produce lots of people efficiently. And then being able to use those people just to research is pretty nice. So there are scenarios where human experiments actually has play, but most of the time you're pretty sad about seeing human experiments, and most of the time it's not a particularly good action. This is also a pretty bad action. The top part here to research I sometimes use. I don't know that it's very rare that I use this other part. The kind of red shipbuilding part, paying 2 people for a 3 ship and then jump 2 is a very painful way to generate ships. One of the difficulties and one of the reasons that going heavy colonization strats is kind of bad is because if you're using a lot of your early boxes to make ships, you're putting a lot of pressure on your population, your ability to generate population. Because now a lot of your boxes are tied up, a lot of your like A and B column are tied up in ships. And to actually generate people, you need to be diving into your C or D columns, which takes a lot of plant discs. And it just turns out that's really hard to set up. And as such, choosing actions that like turns people into ships is really not what you want to be doing in the game. So human experiments is relatively bad. We generally don't pick it when we see it. All right, we gotta reset our row. It's like a typewriter. All right, psionics. Whoa, oh no. My video card's freaking out, and now it's glitched out and not showing anything. What? All right, let's try reopening that file and see what happens. It did not like that though. Okay, there, it's back. It's back. We're fine. It just didn't like what I tried to do there. All right. All right, psionics research. Psionics research automates a plant production and gives us another pretty dang good way to research techs. Now it costs only 2 rocks plus send a guy off in order to research. Normally, again, the Professor's Guild's default action is 4 rocks plus kill a guy in order to research. So this saves us 2 rocks, and that's very important because if the dream for psionics research is that you're coming off of green tech to find this, actually, right? You're going to have researched an early green tech. You then hit this thing. You're able to produce multiple people early, and you don't have to generate that many rocks then to actually be able to use this thing. Silex Research is one of the better things to find early. We are going to often take this. If you're coming off of a green tech, it's probably one of the best green techs you could find to follow up an early green, because now you're also finding you're not only finding a great economic thing in terms of helping you make your people fast, but you're finding a powerful way to research tech level 3s. If you're coming off of blue, you're relatively happy to see Silex Research, but if you're researching blue techs early and then hit this relatively early, you're probably just slightly behind your ability to efficiently generate people and efficiently use this thing. So it's just a little bit worse. But I want to be clear, it's still quite good. So Silex Research, pretty powerful. And then, yeah, it's an action that you're relatively happy using. It's a pretty good way to research Tech 3s. And again, part of why much of what we're going to find in the Tech 2 chain is that we value the ability to research Tech 3s relatively highly. It's actually why Human Experiments is not like just the worst card, is because it still allows us to research Tech 3s. It's just a very expensive way to research Tech 3s. Speaking of other ways to research Tech 3s, we have a Multi-Colony Symposium here. Multi-Colony Symposium, though, turns out to not be a particularly good tech. We don't take this one very often. And the reason that you don't want to take Multi-Colony Symposium very often is it has no immediate benefit. And that lack of an immediate benefit is pretty rough when you're researching. It just gives you a future action space. That future action space is only okay. It is one of the cheapest ways to research a Tech 3. It costs only 2 rocks, and then you send a human off. However, the rest of the text is very important here. We have to skip our production phase unless we have 2 or more colonized systems. Well, as we're covered, we're not going to have early colonized systems. That's not a thing we do very often. And so this also reads we have to skip our production phase. So it tends to read that you're paying something like 2 rocks plus maybe another 2 rocks, or you're paying 2 rocks plus 2 people. And it gave no immediate benefit. So overall, Multi-Colony Symposium is also not a thing we're very excited to see particularly often. It is pretty low on the list. It might even be below Human Experiments, actually. Yeah, it probably is. It's pretty bad. Now, there are rare games where you actually can kind of pull off an early colonization game and then wind up using Multi-Colony Symposium, but it's just very rare. It's hard to set all that up. So, not a thing you see very often. All right, Exo-Ally Refinement. This is a fairly good tech. In particular, the thing that makes it particularly exciting is this is one of the better red techs that you can hit. If you're researching off of red, you're pretty happy to find this guy. And the main reason that you're happy about this one is the immediate benefit of automating a rock disc. Again, automating discs is just very good. It helps your economy, and it helps give you even more points. This one also upgrades 1 ship by 2 levels. This is significantly better than Human Experiments. Human Experiments also gives us 2 strength, but it has to be applied to 2 separate ships. It's much better to be able to apply the strength to 1 ship. This turns your early level 1 ship into a level 3 ship. And now if you get to move a level 3 ship, many of the starting systems take only 3 ship power to colonize. So now you actually might have enough strength to colonize something. And so that also is pretty powerful. The final thing to talk about here, this B part, spend a rock to research a level 1, you almost always would rather automate instead of spending a rock in order to research a Tech 1. However, in rare circumstances, this can be a pretty nice accelerant to your game to enable you to research a level 1 that then sets you up to do something else. But I'd say 90+% of the time, you should really be taking this automate. And yeah, especially if you're researching red, this is often the tech you want to pick. Even if you're researching blue, you can be relatively happy to find this. You generally should be happier to find a way to research tech level 3s. That's one of the big issues with this tech, is that it doesn't help us research tech 3s, but otherwise it gives us very good economy. It helps give us more automation, and it helps give us more ship strength, and that's a nice package. So this is a good tech. All right, Plasma Cannon. Plasma Cannon immediately makes a 3 ship and then jumps 1. The immediate effect's pretty good. Again, we like 3 ship. We generally like stronger ships, right? Stronger ships are good because now it still only takes 1 jump, regardless of how strong your ship is. So, you would much rather have 1 level 4 ship than 2 2 ships. 2 2 ships takes 2 jump to move 4 strength into a system, right? Whereas a 4 ship, this just becomes it becomes even more important depending on how far you're trying to travel to have all that ship strength looped together. The fact that Plasma Cannon makes a 3 ship also makes it better, but the actual action here is only okay. 2 rocks and a person for a 3 ship and jump 3 is an okay action, but we're not particularly excited. Plasma Cannon is okay find, but it's not particularly good. God, it might be better than human experiments on average. It's not a bad tech, but it's a thing we're often settling for. It's not a thing that we're excited to find. With that said, it also is coming off red. There's not a lot of red 2s that are exciting us, to be clear, so this is one of the better red 2s. But this is a general lesson as we continue through this. We're going to value researching green and blue level 2s pretty highly, and we're not that excited about researching red or yellow level 2s. All right, Android Destroyers is next. Android Destroyers makes a 3 ship from our rightmost cube. This is important. Rightmost cubes we're perfectly happy turning into ships. It does not mess up our ability to make humans with the rest of our stuff. Also, the actual action here is really good. Paying rock to turn a box into a ship is so much better than paying rock to turn a human into a ship. Once you research a level 3 tech, this thing over here says spend 2 rocks and a human for a 3 ship jump 3. This says spend 3 rocks to turn a box into a 3 ship, then jump 3. Paying 3 rocks to turn a box into a ship is way better than spending 2 rocks to turn a human into a ship. The human cost is just very different and important. With that said, Android Destroyers is still a car that we're not that excited to find. It doesn't give us automation, which is the main thing that we're it doesn't give us automation, nor does it give us. It doesn't give us automation, nor does it give us an immediate jump. It doesn't give us a way to research tech 4s. But Android Destroyers can be a useful thing that actually enables a colonization-based strategy to somewhat work, because it just efficiently generates ships without having to spend people, and that's a huge value. Again, this rightmost box thing could also be pretty handy for your early production. So this is an okay tech. If you're coming off of green, you're probably not that excited to find it. But if you're coming off of red, this could be a very powerful shipbuilding technology to find. All right, Modular Fleet. Modular Fleet is one of the worst cards. Modular Fleet gives us no immediate benefit, and then it gives us a bunch of pretty expensive ways to make ships. All of the ways that it makes ships cost a human. So yes, we could make a bunch of ships at once, but it would cost a lot of stuff to make those ships. This 2 rocks turning 1 guy into a 3 ship and jump 3 is okay-ish, but that just loops back into Plasma Cannon, and Plasma Cannon gives us an immediate 3 ship and jump when we find it. This guy gives us nothing. So Modular Fleet's one of the worst cards of the deck. Now, for that reason, Modular Fleet's our first tech that has a revised version that we're talking about. The revised version of Modular Fleet comes with an immediate jump 2. So you get to jump 2 when you find it, and then you have this action space. Now, the problem is the action space still is bad. It's still a thing that I don't know that I've ever taken. That's probably a lie. I've probably taken it once or twice, but it's a pretty bad action space. So, Modular Fleet, even the revised version, is quite bad. It's not a tech we want to take very often. The immediate jump 2 can occasionally be useful. It might be better than multi-colony symposium, I guess, but it's bad. It's not a tech this is not a thing we want to find. And you'll note, red, yellow. Again, red and yellow are not the things we want to be hunting. On the other hand, we immediately come into one of the better finds. And part of why we like hunting in the green and blue world. Biosynaptic Network is probably the best green or blue tech that doesn't give. It's one of the better. It's the best blue tech that doesn't give research options. The first part of Biosynaptic Network, the part that says A, that A bonus is not generally what you pick. Usually there's nothing better than the B part. But the B part of getting 2 immediate rock along with an automate is really good. In the early game, 2 rock is like a whole extra production cycle, and then you get an automate on top, which again, we value automates quite a lot. Most of the time, if you're copying something else, you would want to copy something that gives you an automate anyhow. There's very little that gives an automate that also gives something that's better than 2 rocks. So you almost always pick the B part here, but you really like 2 rocks and an automate. It's very good, and that's why this is pretty high up. This is a tech that you want to find. Sometimes if you find Biosynaptic Network, that extra rock immediately allows you to, like, on the next turn, still research a level 2 tech, or even a level 3 tech. That extra rock can really snowball your early game. So we value it quite a lot. All right, Outer Sector Militia. Outer Sector Militia gives us an immediate 2 ship with a jump 1. The immediate part is only okay. It's fine. The second part gives us a ability to turn a 1 rock into a 2 ship and then jump 3. The shipbuilding part that it offers is not particularly good. It's slightly worse than stuff like Plasma Cannon because we're only making a 2-strength ship instead of a 3-strength ship. However, the key part is the bottom bit. For each space that you took control from an opponent, you gain a rock. Gaining an immediate rock for each thing you take over can be a nice boost. That can be a good amount of extra rock. And so for that reason, Outer Sector Militia is an okay action space with an okay-ish immediate. It's not the thing that I'm often super excited to find. Again, I'm often settling for it, especially if I'm coming off of green. If I'm coming off of green, it's definitely something I'm kind of settling for. But if I'm coming off of red, it's one of the better reds I can find. It's a reasonable red to find. So it's pretty good. It's solidly in the middle of techs that we can find. All right, mass cloning. So mass cloning is actually the best. It is the best. It is just the best card you could find. It's the best card you can find on your second turn of the game. Your first turn of the game, you research advanced genetics. Half of the reason that you're researching advanced genetics is so that you can hit mass cloning on your next turn. If you find mass cloning after researching advanced genetics, it's kind of everything you want. Mass cloning allows you to automate a disc, which gives you that second plant production disc that you need so that you can just generate a lot of humans. It gives you another immediate human anyhow, but now you get to produce humans. But the real problem with mass cloning is the action itself that it offers is also pretty good, especially in the early game. If your opening turn is research at tech level 1, your second turn is mass cloning, your third turn is you get to use mass cloning, and you get to gain 2 rocks plus research at level 1. Your third turn of the game is probably just research another level 1 tech anyhow, because you need to research another level 1 so that you can keep researching level 2 techs, and then you probably need multiple 2 techs to support your ability to research level 3 techs. But mass cloning says that you just get 2 free rocks while doing that level 1 research compared to all of your opponents. 2 extra rocks early for doing the thing you were going to do anyhow is a really powerful boon. Very valuable. So, anyhow, yeah, mass cloning is the best tech you can find. Now, precisely because of this, because of how powerful this was, mass cloning also has a revised version. The immediate part is still the same, but the action space has changed. The action space is now you either gain 3 rocks, or you can spend 1 rock to turn 2 boxes into 2 people, and there is no ability to research level 1s anymore. The revised mass cloning turns out to be still very good, but it's probably somewhere a little bit below Biosynaptic Network, and like it's still a very good card. It's still a thing that we're happy to find, but it's no longer just utterly bonkers. Even original mass cloning is a little bit less exciting if you've already researched a bunch of level 1 techs. The real strength of mass cloning is the fact that it allows you to gain 2 rocks while researching a level 1 tech. The other part of mass cloning that can be pretty good is, again, our game plan is usually that we're going to generate a bunch of people early, and then we're going to generate lots of rocks. How do we turn those rocks back into people if we're short on people? Mass cloning giving us the ability to just make a couple of people as an action is an okay spot. You don't want to take very many turns in a game of Beyond the Sun just to set up economies, just to make resources. In fact, you can usually only afford to do that once or twice. But the fact you can afford to do it once or twice, mass cloning gives you a very efficient spot to get the resources you need to keep going. So for all those reasons, mass cloning is pretty good. All right, Android Surveyors. Android Surveyors is pretty dang good. It automates a thing, which we love. It gives a jump, which is solid. That jump nicely loops into... It's also a really solid way to colonize. Paying 4 rocks, but not paying a person, it makes colonization way more tempting. Also, if you have the ship strength to overpay, now your colonization's... Instead of paying a person to colonize, you're going to gain a person when you colonize if you can overpay ship strength. That can set up a really, actually very useful colonization game plan. I am most likely to lean into a colonization game plan if I find Android Surveyors relatively early, and I'm that much more likely to lean into a colonization game plan if I find Android Surveyors plus Android Destroyers relatively early. Because Android Destroyers can help me efficiently make ships. Android Surveyors can help me efficiently colonize. Finding both of those techs enables me to actually kind of run a true colonization engine. Even if I'm not planning to colonize, though, an automated jump is a solid find. It's probably still just a little below mass cloning, but it's quite good. Also, you'll notice that this is a yellow-green tech. This is probably the best yellow. This is probably the best yellow in the H2 deck. So if you are coming off of yellow, this is probably the thing that you're hoping to hit. It's very good. So, all right, we need to reset our line again. And yeah, I was going to say, all right, rescaling is apparently what, not allowed to rescale my image, apparently. Does not like me when I do that. All right, we're still covering some 2 techs here. There's a lot of techs in the game. It's part of why the game's so fun and interesting. We got a lot of variants. I'm gonna easily make this in like an hour-and-a-half video. Just imagine me turning turning something into a wildly long video. It's entirely believable. All right, Spacetime Anomaly Studies. Spacetime Anomaly Studies in this version is probably the second best card you can find. Spacetime Anomaly Studies gives you an immediate jump 2, and then it gives you a wildly efficient way to research tech level 3s. And the reason that it's wildly efficient is because you spend 3 rocks to research a tech level 3, which is probably just the best way to research tech level 3 anyhow. But then the action also gives you jump 2. So getting to jump to and reposition your things and like set up useful control outposts so that you're helping your economy, and getting to research a tech level 3 as part of the same action, all for a very reasonable cost, is incredibly good. Now, as you'll note, you do need to control 3 or more locations. That can be kind of difficult. I do tend to play more 3-player than I do 4-player, and in 3-player it is the easiest to use this because there are a good number of locations and there's only 3 people. This is definitely slightly worse than 4-player. It does have the issue that you need to have some ships out, but if you have a couple of ships and if you've upgraded stuff a little, it's very good. If you're coming off of yellow, this is actually the best yellow to find. I lied. Now that I'm Android Surveyors is not the best yellow you can find. I forgot about this guy. With all of that said, this is also a card that got revised because it was too good. The new version no longer comes with the immediate jump 2, and that keeps it way more in check. Because now when you jump 2, it's a lot harder to control 3 or more locations after you jump 2, because a lot of times you need to jump 3 or even more. So originally, when you research space-time anomaly studies, you would get an immediate jump 2, and then like the very next turn, you could just use the action jump 2. You probably control 3 locations now, and you're already researching tech 3s, and then you're just rolling. You're snowballing so hard. But now that you don't get the immediate jump 2, it becomes a lot harder to use this thing in the first place, and it's a lot harder to snowball off of it. So revised space-time anomaly studies is somewhere kind of here in the middle. It's actually probably even worse than Exo Alloy Refinement. It doesn't give us any immediate benefit, which is a big issue, but it still can be a very powerful card if we have the setup for it. More than any other card, Space-Time Anomaly Studies is probably one that you need to be very careful about putting on the table in terms of, are you actually the one that's going to benefit the most from this? If you're generally doing the game plan I've been talking about, you might not have that much ship strength yet, and you might not have moved around very much. And so choosing this tech to go on the table could mean that you're just really benefiting whoever's been doing the spaceborne stuff and is now going to just follow behind you and research this guy and really get to abuse it. So I would be cautious about putting this one on the table if you're going to at all. The original version I would almost always take, but this version is, pretty in the middle. I would take a good number of stuff over it, but it can still be very powerful. It's if you're in position to spend 3 rocks and take control of some locations and then actually do this Tech 3 research, it's still one of the best actions in the game. All right, Terra Nova Cruisers. Terra Nova Cruiser spends 4 rocks at a person in order to colonize. However, the power requirement is lowered by 1. This sounds pretty good, but in practice, it's pretty hard to use this. The problem is you still have to control a system to colonize it, but a lot of times your opponents are going to fly in level 3 ships or something to wherever you're at, and it doesn't really matter that you can pay 1 less strength, because you need a bunch of strength there to control the place anyhow. Occasionally it does let you pay 1 less ship strength than you would otherwise do, but the space itself is pretty expensive, and it gives us no immediate benefit. And as such, it's bad. This is not an action that is this worse than original mod fleet? It's probably not worse than original modular fleet, but it is bad. Again, we once again see yellow-red leading us to, like, we are not happy about yellow-red techs. We don't want to be researching yellows and reds. Supply Outpost. Supply Outpost upgrades a ship by 1, then gives us a jump 2. It gives us an action that makes a human and then upgrades a ship and does a jump. It's an okay action space. Getting a human is really the cool part. Slightly getting to move your ships around and upgrade them is fine. The original finding of upgrade 1 ship by 1 and then jump 2 is fine. This is a fine tech. I'm not excited about finding it, but it often does a little bit of stuff. It can help. But especially if I'm coming off of green, I'm relatively unexcited. This is this is pretty average to slightly above average for the yellow deck. Off of it too. I'm gonna put it down here though. This is not very good. But it's still okay. Intersystem diplomacy. This one's really hard to rate. The immediate effect of gaining a person and a rock is fine. You're relatively happy to just get a couple resources. The actual action space, pay one rock to an opponent and take the spot that they're currently on. Occasionally, this is wildly good. You get to suddenly copy a powerful action that your opponent's on, and it's really good for you. But the timing of being able to take this action space when somebody else is already in a good spot and you're paying them a rock, and then you're still paying for whatever space you're using, that's tough. It's sometimes like inter-system diplomacy often does hardly anything, and then some games it's just wildly powerful and like allows you to. It just can be kind of game saving that you have this action available to you. It's a thing that you're more happy finding kind of toward the mid to late game. It doesn't really do you a lot of immediate good. If you find it early, there's not that many actions to copy anyhow, and you're not getting like automation, or you're just getting a couple immediate resources back, which is not as good as the other stuff. But towards the later game, just getting a couple immediate resources back and then being able to copy some very powerful actions other people could be taking is good. Uh, I'm gonna put it right below supply outpost and still above human experiments, but this one's a bit hard to rate. Uh, yeah, this one's a bit hard to rate. All right, we're done with the twos. That's the end of the twos. We're finally on to level 3 techs. So this was our list. Whoops, I needed to write. So we obviously have we have 3 revised versions of in the level 2s. There's only 1 revised card in the 3 deck. So most of the revised things happened to the 2s, and obviously Modular Fleet was so bad, so they buffed it a little. It only kind of helped. Mass cloning and space-time anomaly studies were wildly powerful in their original version, so I'm happy they got revised. They're still both pretty good techs now in the revised version, but they're no longer as like crazy, and they fit pretty nicely within the rest of the techs you find. So I've already made it pretty clear, but I'll reiterate it one more time. Just looking at this list, this list really likes you to research greens and blues from the level 2s. Hypercomputing's blue, psionics is blue-green, biosynaptics blue-green, mass cloning is green, android surveyors is green-yellow, this is blue-red, this is blue-yellow, this is green-red, this is green-red. It's not till we get all the way down to like here that we're just talking about pure red and pure yellows. So just a lot of the stuff that you want to find is up here. So you really like researching. You really like the level 1 green and blue techs because they lead into very powerful level 2 techs. So, all right, our level 3 techs. Our first level 3 tech to talk about is Transdimensional AI. This one is one of the harder techs to understand in the game. You get an immediate person that you can then put onto a revealed level 1 or level 2 without prerequisites. Now, you almost always are going to choose a revealed level 2 if you're doing this, because there are no prereqs to level 1s, and there's some shenanigan ways to research level 1s anyhow. So you usually want to pick the level 2. From now on, researching level 2s, 3s, or 4s requires 1 less if they're visible. So it doesn't help you find undiscovered techs. It helps you follow behind other people's techs. That's not really what we want to be doing. Skipping the immediate bonus of whatever tech we're researching as a level 2, almost all the level 2 techs, part of why we care about them is because they give us immediate bonuses. There's relatively few level 2 techs where we're like, oh, that's just such a good action on its own that I want to be there. There's a couple, but Anyhow, Transdimensional AI is one of the worst cards that you can find in the 3 deck. I would say you should almost never take it. There's almost always a better blue tech and a better thing to be doing than Transdimensional AI, which is a shame, but yeah, it's just not very good. This bottom part turns out to not be particularly useful. The top part is only okay, but the fact that it's skipping the other immediate benefit is just really annoying. So anyhow, yeah, it's not very good. Planetary scale research. This makes a 2-ship, gives you jump 2, and then it gives you a cool colonization or research action. It allows you to research things equal to the number of your colonized systems plus 1. Now, if you've not been colonizing, which you probably haven't been, then this thing's actually pretty bad, because just making a 2-ship and jumping 2 is fine, but it's really not very exciting. If you have been colonizing, this can be pretty cool. If you actually get to pull off a heavy colonization game plan, this is by far the most efficient way that you can research a level 4 tech. If you have 3 colonies, and then you can use this guy to research a level 4 tech, it's sweet. If you're able to use this guy, like maybe you have 2 colonies, and now you can just use this guy as 4 rocks to research a level 3, you find a 3 or 2, and then you colonize another system, and now you can use it to research your level 4. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But the number of times that you're able to do that is very low, and the number of times you actually get to use this action space to research anything meaningful is very low. On the whole, this is also a pretty bad card. However, it's still better than Transdim AI in terms of, like, generally making a 2-ship and jump 2 is a better immediate benefit than whatever Transdimensional AI is doing for you. But they're both pretty underwhelming usually. Metahuman Chambers, on the other hand, is very good. It's one of the better techs you can find. Metahuman Chambers automates a disc, which we love, it gives us a human, which we love, and it gives us a way to research tech level 4s, and that's also a thing we love. If you're doing a heavy tech game plan, you're very much trying to find a good way to research tech level 4s. This is one of the better ways to research tech level 4s. So, yeah, it's really good. It is human intensive, it's expensive in order to actually use this thing, but the fact that it automates a disc and gives us a person makes it somewhat likely that we can generate the people to actually be able to use this space. And again, researching tech level 4s is just worth a ton of points. It gives you an achievement, it helps you speed the game to an end, and it gives you a ton of points for whatever tech level 4 you get to research. So, very, very powerful card, one that we're often hoping to find. Now, the only thing that's better than Metahuman Chambers is Hivemind Computing for researching tech level 4s. Hivemind Computing, we spend only 7 rocks in order to research tech level 4. So we're spending 3 rocks more, but we're spending 2 people less. 3 rocks for 2 people is a very good exchange rate. This guy also helps us automate, and it automates the thing that helps us make more rocks, and it lets us even jump 1, which, you know, jump 1 can be a nice little way to reposition a ship and get a little more production on the spaceport. Overall, Hivemind Computing, very powerful, very good. Probably... It's probably not the best tech level 3, but it's one of the best tech level 3s. You're very happy almost every time when you find Hivemind Computing. It's a thing. It probably is the blue tech that you're trying to find. When you're researching off of a blue for level 3, you're probably hoping to find Hivemind Computing. Gosh, that still might not be true. It's one of the top 2 things you're going to find. We'll talk about the top thing in a sec, but Hivemind Computing, very good. Deep Space Megastructures. Deep Space Megastructures is pretty good. You get to make a 3-ship in deep space, which means that you're really in position to kind of jump wherever you're needed to go. And then the action itself, 4 rocks to make a 2-ship and research a level 3 tech is pretty cool. This is a good way to research tech. It's a pretty good way to make an immediate ship. It's an okayish way just to make ships while you're researching. Uh, Overall, like Deep Space Megastructure is pretty good. Now, it does partly depend on when you find it. If you find Deep Space Megastructures as part of your like first Tech Level 3, it's quite good because now you can use it to research more Tech Level 3s. But if you've already researched several Tech 3s and you find it kind of later, well, you're probably not using the action space itself, and part of the power of the card is the action space. The immediate is only okay for a Tech Level 3, so... but we're still pretty happy with Deep Space Megastructures. It's pretty good. Um, Capital Ship. Capital Ship gives us a level 4 ship at jump 1. It then gives us a pretty powerful... it's an interesting shipbuilding space. It costs 3 rocks and a human, but it gives us a level 4 ship with a jump 3, and it gives us the option to build even more ships if we want. It's one of the most like ship strengths that you can output in one action space, but it's a very expensive way to generate a lot of ships. But the immediate is decent. The action space itself is okay. It's still not really what we're hoping to research and do, but it's an okay thing. It's an okay tech. But again, it really just makes ships, and again, just making ships. You have to hope that you can follow it up with good colonization actions, and there's never a guarantee you can do that, and so just generating ship strength is not really a guarantee of doing anything. All right, we finished another row. Will my thing glitch out again while resetting? It appears it's not going to this time. Lovely. All right. Android Armada. Android Armada is pretty good. When you research it, you can just immediately get 2 people. That's pretty good. Also, choosing some ship strength if you really need it is okay. And then the action space itself is the best shipbuilding space in the game. 4 rocks to make a 4 ship and jump 3 without spending a human. Again, the lack of human is part of why we really like this. This is a very good way to generate ships. And the fact that it immediately can help you make some ships or humans, like the immediate is useful. Like this is a pretty good act. This is a pretty good find. It doesn't give you any automation though. Is it? It's probably slightly worse than Deep Space Megastructures, but this is a pretty good tech. Android Armada is pretty good. Mercenary Fleet. Mercenary Fleet has no immediate benefit. That is already a reason that we're going to rate it pretty lowly. The action itself, 3 rocks to colonize, is nice. It no longer has that human cost. But for a tech level 3 that has no immediate benefit, opening up an action space that's only somewhat more efficient than the basic one is not very exciting. The shipbuilding part is very costly. A rock and 2 humans to make a 4 ship and then only jump 2. This is not even that good of a spot. So the only thing that's good about Mercenary Fleet is this bit. And it doesn't come with any immediate benefit. Like, God, it's probably even worse than Transdim AI, and I think Transdim AI is really pretty bad. But Mercenary Fleet's also pretty dang bad. This is definitely kind of a low roll when you find this. It's very rare that you're excited about this one. Cerebral implants. This is a tricky one to rate, but it's going to be relatively low, but I don't want to be too hard on cerebral implants because making a person and then researching is like pretty useful. So like consider this space. This space says 5 rocks, makes a person, and then researches a tech 3. Where our hypercomputing space that we like quite a bit is spend 4 rocks on a person. So spending 1 more rock just gives us the person with the action. That's really good. That's a good action. Assuming we have really good rock production and we have slight human issues, which is not at all a wild position to find yourself in. It's probably better if you find this tech while off of blues. Blues tend to give you more rock automation, and you're more likely to be short on people. Where if you're finding this while researching green, you're probably already kind of good on people production, so you're relatively sad to see this. But anyhow, yeah, sometimes cerebral implants is a pretty good action space, but it gives us no immediate benefit, which is a big bummer. But the action space itself is pretty good. So cerebral implants is okay. It's an okay find. There's some games where this is actually what you're fishing for because you're struggling so hard to make people to keep researching with, but you have great rock production going. So every once in a while, this is a lifesaver, but usually you're probably not taking it. Manufactured orbitals. This is also a tough one. You immediately gain a rock for every location you control, up to a max of 3. You then get a person for every 2 colonized systems you have, and then you can choose to make a ship. The ship thing is not particularly good, but then you get jump 2. Uh, this is a tough one because this is only particularly good if you already have locations under your control, and it's only really good if you already have colonized systems. And even then, it's the immediate stuff is only giving you resources, right? It's only ever giving us resources and jumps. It's not giving us automations. It's not giving us an action space that makes points. Things that make points are, researching more techs or colonizing. This just helps give us resource and moves us around. Now, it does help give us quite a few resources in some positions, and it does help us move around, which is kind of nice, but it is pretty bad. This is a pretty bad find. Every once in a while, you're going to be able to do more of a colonization game plan and then be researching kind of late, and then you might find this, and then it's quite good. But the number of games where you're like kind of colonizing and then finding and getting to use this is pretty rare. And as such, it's a pretty bad tech. It might even be worse than Transdim AI. It's pretty bad. Android rights movement. Now this, on the other hand, is pretty dang good. This, you get to automate a plant disk, and then you get to move your rightmost 2 boxes to any column of your choice. So a lot of times this looks like you get to automate a plant disk, and then you get to move your rightmost boxes into like column A and B, and then you get to just like produce 2 or 3 humans, and that can like really save your like game. Again, this is one of those cards where I say like during the early game I try to kind of produce humans a bunch and deplete my A and B columns, and then later in the game I'm going to be producing lots of rocks. And then this is a card that I'm pretty happy to find because this is one of the outs that might save my late game people production. The other thing about Android rights movement is not only is the automate or like the immediate benefit is like quite good, it gives us a passive ability. From now on, we can ignore a kill a human for the cost of 1 rock. This turns certain spaces into really like much more powerful options. So Android rights movement combos with some other things. Like it really nicely combos with like Psionics research. Psionics research now is just 3 rocks to research a tech level 4. Great. It combos pretty nicely with Metahuman Chambers. Metahuman Chambers is now 5 rocks and kill 1 guy in order to research a tech level 4. That's better. So anyhow, Android rights movement is like really good. It doesn't directly let us research tech level 4s, which is the main thing that we're really hoping to find, but it does automate and help us make people. And for that reason, it's up there as a very good find. Subatomic fabrication. Oof. All right. This is a tough one to rate. Subatomic fabrication might be better than finding metahuman chambers or a tech level 4 in rare circumstances. It is pretty much it's very powerful. Subatomic fabrication lets us automate a disk of our choice. It gives us an immediate person back. It gives us a rock back, and it lets us jump. And from now on, we can put down whatever disk we want. Putting down whatever disk we want is already useful, and it's extra useful in terms of meeting certain achievements. For all those reasons, subatomic fabrication's really good, and you're often very happy to find it. It's one of the premier tech level 3s that you're trying to find when you're researching off of green or yellow. We haven't talked much about the colors of tech level 3s yet, but I should do that quick. The shortcut is researching yellow techs off of tech 3s is actually really good. Most of the best cards are part yellow. Hive mind computing, part yellow. Subatomic fabrication, part yellow. Some of the other things that we're about to get to that are also very good, part yellow. With that said, many of the top cards are still green and green and blue, so we're still relatively happy coming down the green or blue tracks. There are some okay red cards, but there's also some pretty bad red cards, and so once again, poor red is pretty low off of the things that we want to research or find. But anyhow, subatomic fabrication is very good. It's a really nice tech. All right, finally, well, not finally, but quantum data exchange. Quantum data exchange was the card I was referencing earlier that might actually be the best blue to find. And you'll note it's yellow again, so we really like researching off the yellow. Quantum Data Exchange lets us automate a rack disk, which we like, and it gives us 2 immediate racks. The 2 immediate racks can really help you snowball. And then on top of that, it has an action space that lets us copy any research type action that's on the board. This can copy the basic stuff, like once Technocrats Guild gets revealed, we can copy that. It allows us to copy space-time anomaly studies, so we can just very efficiently research. If somebody else reveals hive mind computing or metahuman chambers, we can copy that and use it. Quantum data exchange, in certain games also, there could be a huge glut of everybody's trying to get on the hypercomputing action because there's not that many spots that let us efficiently research Tech 4s, so everybody's taking their turn on hypercomputing. And if that's the case, boom, quantum data exchange, suddenly you get to research this, and if you research this, you guaranteedly are the first one that can come copy this. Boom, like you can get ahead on the research game and then just keep snowballing from there. The fact that these immediate resources can help you continue snowballing, this is a very powerful card to find early. In some games, you still would rather have a way to research a Tech 4. One of the dangers of picking quantum data exchange over like hive mind computing is that you might get blocked from researching a Tech 4, which is a big problem. So, for example, I would be happier picking quantum data exchange if while during that research I was able to uncover, the guild that lets us research a Tech 4, right? Like you don't know when or if you're going to be able to research a Tech 4 in the game, but if that guild is available, well, now you're always at least able to in dire circumstances. But it can be brutal every once in a while in Beyond the Sun. Like you just can't actually find a way to research a Tech 4, and you need other people to open that guild up for you, and it's just not happening for a while. That's really the only downside to quantum data exchange is if a Tech 4 doesn't get revealed, a way to research Tech 4s. But otherwise, it's really good. It's very powerful. It's often the thing. This is often the thing that I'm actually hunting for and very excited to find. This is a very powerful tech, very powerful action. Hyperdrive boosters. Hyperdrive boosters is one of the better ways to like move your ships around and make ship strength. You get to upgrade ships, so you can upgrade specific ships to get them at cutoffs for colonization. You get jump 4. Jump 4 as an action is just very good, and it's relatively rare. There's terraforming that gives you jump 4, but otherwise very few things give you jump 4 except this. The immediate benefit of upgrade 3 ship levels and just distribute them however you want. Distributing them however you want is pretty nice. Sometimes this can just upgrade a ship that allows you to take control of a spot again. Ultimately, this still is an action that doesn't help us research Tech 4s or give us automation disks, but it is probably the best way to like move ships about and upgrade ships. So it's still pretty good tech. But it's not what we're trying to find off of yellow. We're slightly sad when this is our yellow choice, but you're somewhat happy usually when it's your red choice. So it's a reasonable thing to find, and it's a pretty good action. Again, only moving ships about is only so useful though, so we can't waste too many turns just jumping as our actions. You have to actually be making points, and just jumping is not actually points. So you got to be careful. Like you can't actually use the space that much, or you'll lose the game because you're not actually doing anything. But All right, Wormhole Tech. Wormhole Tech gives you a 2-ship, it gives you a rock, and then it gives you jump to anywhere. And from now on, you need a lot less jumps to get about the board. Wormhole Tech, I think, is overrated. It's still pretty good. I mean, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think more than any other tech, people get sucked in by the allure of Wormhole Tech when they should be taking something else on this list that I have rated higher. And this loops back into ultimately Wormhole Tech is all Wormhole Tech is doing is it's giving us ships and it's giving us the ability to move our ships about better. But as we've been talking about, moving our ships about is not really how we win Beyond the Sun usually. We usually win Beyond the Sun by getting a bunch of automation, getting a bunch of techs, and researching tech level 4s. Sometimes you'll win Beyond the Sun by moving about the board and colonizing and actually making some points from that side of the board. But most of your points in Beyond the Sun don't come from that board. So Wormhole Tech isn't really helping you do the colonization thing. It's helping you do the moving thing. And the moving things needs more help in order to be good. Wormhole Tech could be an important part of making the moving about the board part powerful, but I would take a lot of things over Wormhole Tech. It's still probably going here in the middle. Like, it is obviously still powerful, but I feel like I see Wormhole Tech get picked very often when it's an option, and I think it probably is pretty middling in terms of overall strength. All right, Stealth Terraformers. I'm going to make this fast. Stealth Terraformers is the worst card in the deck, but that is why they revised it. This version of Stealth Terraformers says you spend 5 rocks and have to lose a guy in order to jump 2, and then you can colonize a system that was not controlled by anybody at the start of this turn. This is utterly awful. It doesn't have any immediate benefits. The action space itself sucks. You never take Stealth Terraformers in its original iteration. It's awful. Stealth Terraformers in its updated iteration is still bad, but at least it has a niche, but I think it's still literally the worst card of the deck. Is that true? Is Mercenary Fleet better than Stealth Terraformers? Maybe it's not. Is Transdim AI better than new Stealth Terraformers? Probably, actually. Probably still is. All right. We'll be nice to Stealth Terraformers Revised. The revision to Stealth Terraformers is that it only costs 5 rocks. It no longer has the losing dude. And then it just says jump 2 and then colonize. It no longer cares who controlled it at the start of this turn. These are good changes, but 5 rocks to jump 2 and colonize is okay. It's kind of cool. But you still have to have a good way to generate ships, and 5 rocks is kind of pricey. Like, it does give you a jump 2. Being able to jump and then colonize is powerful. It is helpful and it's useful, but it's still so hard to actually get this going. You have to have a way to like make ships. You have to research this, getting no immediate benefit, and then you have to use this action space in order to get benefit from researching Stealth Terraformers. And it's just hard. It just doesn't happen that often, so it's pretty bad. This is the only danger of researching yellow, for the record, is like you might get offered Mercenary Fleet Stealth Terraformers, and then you're just really sad. But otherwise, researching off of yellow is amazing because quantum data exchange, hive mind computing, subatomic fabrication, wormhole tech, hyperdrive boosters are like a lot of hits. So we love to research off of yellow and the tech 3s, but every once in a while you're gonna low roll, and then your game just kind of your game's a lot worse. Game's a lot worse when you low roll. But that's the game. That's how it goes. All right, we're down to the final line, and the final line is just 10 Tech 4s. Actually, we're done with the Tech 3s. Cool. We get to talk about the Tech 4s in a sec. So I need to move this up. All right, there we go. Okay, yeah. For our Tech 3 list, I'm pretty happy with this list. I do think Quantum Data Exchange is the best. Then the things that help us research Tech 4's high mind computing and metahuman chambers are really important. After that, some of the powerful effects that give us automation, subatomic fabrication, and android rights movement, those both help us automate and give us some other benefits immediately. And then we start to value some of the things that kind of give us ships or other ways to research, efficient ways to make and move ships. And then down at the bottom, we have stuff that just like doesn't give us immediate benefits and asks us to do things with shipping, or has like niche uses if we're in the right situation. So yeah. Okay, now for ranking the tech level 4s. We're gonna rank the tech level 4s here. Now, tech level 4 is one of the tricky parts of the game. Really knowing this deck and knowing what you're trying to find, I think, is very important. You often do get to pick what color that you're trying to research down off of Tech 4s. So you actually have more control over picking your Tech 4 than you do a lot of other things a lot of times, because like you know the relatively limited pool, and you also you usually are getting to pick what color you want to be looking at. So you can finagle your way into stuff. Paying attention to what's already out there or what got shown, you can like really start to narrow in on what's left pretty fast. So, speaking though of Tech 4s, here we have Tech Singularity. Tech Singularity makes all of our actions cost 1 rock less or 1 less kill a person. 1 less kill a person is very powerful. At the game end, we get a point for each of our level 2 and level 3 techs. Up to a maximum of 8 points. Tech Singularity is very good. It is one of the main things that we're kind of building towards in our generic game plan, right? Our generic game plan is do a lot of techs, and we want to research a lot of tech level 2s and 3s, find a lot of automation, research a lot of techs, and we want to hit this guy. This is one of the big hits. This often is worth like 7 or 8 points in those game plans. And if you find it early enough, you can actually use the benefit of it, like, once or twice to kind of keep doing powerful things. Every once in a while, you get to research Tech Singularity pretty early, and you get to benefit from its passive a couple of times, and it's really nice. You have to stop yourself from making Twilight Imperium jokes about Tech Singularity. Nah, you don't have to. You can do it. You can do whatever you want. Anyhow, technological singularity is definitely pretty high up on the list of what we're trying to find in the tech level 4s. This is a very good find, pretty consistently. It just naturally combos, right? In order to be researching a tech level 4 at all, you already have to have 2 tech level 3s, which means you have to have at least 2 tech level 2s. A lot of times it means you have slightly more than that. So like, this just combos really nicely into itself and all that. So anyhow, Giga Corporations. Giga Corporation says that we can replace our star discs on the achievement track with production discs, and at the game end, we're going to get points equal to the average level of our tracks, rounded down. If you've been able to automate a decent bit, then you can get an achievement or 2. Gigacorps is usually relatively safely about 6 points, maybe 7. It sometimes helps you produce a little bit more than you otherwise would be able to. With that said, it's generally not the card that you're hoping to find. This is usually the card that I'm settling for when I don't get offered the better blues or greens. And spoiler alert, I'm often looking at blue or green tech level 4s. That's partly because the blue and green tech 4s are pretty good, and it's partly because a lot of times I've been researching a lot of blue and green tech 2s and tech 3s because those are good, and so I only have choices of looking at blue or green tech 4s. But yeah, Gigacorps is probably the worst. And the good news is it's not that bad. It's still usually like 6 points. It's only 6, and it doesn't do a lot else. Whereas many of the other tech 4s that we're talking about have even more like upsides or more immediate benefits.
So yeah, Gigacorpse is only okay, but hey, okay is still yeah. Parallel Universe Generator. Parallel Universe Generator lets us repeat the immediate bonus of any revealed tech level 3, even if we don't have the tech. And then at the end of the game, we double our points from achievements. Now, the good news is, if you're researching this, you guaranteedly have Transcended. So you have at least the Transcendence achievement. Now, were you the first? Do you have 4 points on Transcendence, or do you only have 3 or 2? Are you thinking you're going to hit another? Are you going to hit another achievement this game so that you get at least 3 points of achievements and then can double it for this? If you think that you're going to hit Transcendence and at least one other thing, this is often very good. If you're not going to do that, it's often pretty bad. This is where you also have to pay attention to your opponents. If you have an opponent that's coming up the tech track behind you, and you think they're going to hit this, and they're going to hit another achievement, though, that you're not, it can be dangerous to pick and leave this one. This one also depends a little bit on what tech level 3s are visible. Parallel Universe Generator, for example, loves to see subatomic fabrication on the table because copying subatomic fabrication's immediate is great. Subatomic fabrication's immediate lets you automate a disc, gets you a human, gets you a rock, and gets you a jump. That's a great immediate payout that helps you continue to snowball. A lot of times when you're researching a tech level 4, you're spending almost all of your resources to research a tech level 4, so it can be really hard to have a good turn after the turn when you research a tech level 4. And Parallel Universe Generator, being able to like copy subatomic fabrication, so you immediately have a bunch of stuff, and then you still produce, can let you kind of continue snowballing even through the like mid to late game. So it's a little bit hard to rate this one. Like it's also a little bit more of a win more card because one of the things that I did kind of miss talking about in terms of our generic strategy, but we're trying to hit achievements and make the game go fast. If we hit the achievements, we get points and we make the game shorter, giving our opponents less opportunities to get points. So for all those reasons, like hitting achievements is also just a very powerful like part of playing Beyond the Sun well. So if we're having a good game where we're hitting the achievements well, and then we find Parallel Universe Generator, we're probably just winning. But if we're not having such a great game, this is often not the card that we're hoping to find out of the Tech Level 4 deck. It's still pretty good, but there are scenarios where it's not that exciting, but it's a pretty good find usually. I find myself taking this reasonably often. Yeah. All right, Neo-Industrial Revolution. Neo-Industrial Revolution is actually the card that I'm most often trying to hunt for out of the Tech Level 4 deck, and it doesn't immediately scream that it's the best. Or maybe it does. It's really good, though. You immediately get 2/3 ships, and then you get to jump 2, and then you get to double produce. Now, the tricky bit is at the end of the game, you get a point for every 2 rock you have, up to 7 bonus points. But that means you need 14 rock left over at the end of the game. That's a lot of rock to have left over at the end of the game. However, an extra production phase is pretty huge. 2/3 ships plus a jump 2 as an immediate benefit is a lot. This is a very strong immediate benefit. So the thing is, a lot of times I maybe am only scoring like 4 or 5 points directly from Neo-Industrial Revolution's scoring for the endgame rocks. However, the reason that I so often pick it is even if I'm getting only like 5 direct points, the thing is, Neo-Industrial Revolution combos with a lot of things. There are several level 3 events that add global bonus points into the game. One of those global bonus points is Interstellar Arms Race, where you get 1 point for every 3 strength of ships you have on the board at the end of the game. If Interstellar Arms Race is in the game, Neo-Industrial Revolution says gain 2 points for Interstellar Arms Race, right? Also, Neo-Industrial Revolution combos with the global bonus that says you get 1 point for every 4 rocks at the end of the game. Now, again, this isn't always in the game, but these things are in roughly half of the games. The exact math is it's just slightly under half. But anyhow, like roughly half the time there's like Interstellar Arms Race. Roughly half the time there's the global bonus for rocks left over. Controlling locations is worth points at the end of the end is worth points at the end of the game. So you loop in these like extra bonus points that you could be getting from Neo Industrial Revolution. You loop in a very powerful immediate effect, and you still tend to get like a good number of bonus points at the end of the game for leftover rock, and it's really good. Neo Industrial Revolution, part of why I think it's often good is like if you're coming off of a blue research path, you probably do have a lot of rock production, and you probably are producing a lot of rock anyhow. So I think this works quite good. I think it's the best tech level 4. So hello, welcome, Truth Eternal. We're getting near the end of the stream here. We're ranking all of our tech level 4s, and then we're almost done. But welcome. All right, our next tech level 4 is Mega Fleet Construction. You get to upgrade 3 ships by 1 level and then jump 1. Upgrading 3 ships by 1 level, not that good. Jump 1 is okay. This says at the game end you choose 1 location other than Solar Deep Space, and you gain points equal to your total military power there, up to a max of 7. This is okay. You often can get quite a bit of strength on 1 space, including this immediate benefit, but why do you want that much strength on 1 space? It's not immediate obvious. Also, in rare circumstances, you can get slightly rocked. That's actually not true. You're pretty safe. But anyhow, Mega Fleet Construction is not usually the thing that you're trying to find. It gives you points for doing a thing that's slightly awkward, which is leaving a bunch of strength in 1 location. Usually, if you're positioning your ships so that you have a bunch of strength in 1 location, it's because you want to colonize there. So anyhow, yeah, Mega Fleet Construction is like kind of doing stuff that we don't super want to be doing. It's not a thing. It's also purely red. So you have to be hunting a red tech. I'm going to actually put it, I'm putting it very low. And that's because I just almost am never... I'm almost never picking red as as my search. Like, the reality is I've played over like 150 games of Beyond the Sun on BGA. I'm actually not sure I've ever picked Mega Fleet Construction. So, and it's not because I think Mega Fleet Construction is awful. It's because I'm like almost never hunting red techs. And if I am hunting red techs, it's almost certainly because I actually want to hit Neo-Industrial Revolution, and or I know I'm going to hit Neo-Industrial Revolution because I've already seen somebody else take some of the other red tech out. It's just, yeah, this is just not a thing that I see get much play. With that said, there are worse techs. And Mind Machine Assimilation is probably the worst tech level 4. Now, it is interesting because one of the cool things about Mind Machine Assimilation is that it does have a maximum of 9 victory points, which is the highest. Many of the others max slightly lower, but you can get 9 points from 1 card, which is kind of the best. But it's so rare to make this work. The thing that this lets you do is anytime during your turn, you can merge 2 ships at the same location by making one of them into a human, and the other gets upgraded by its power. And then at the end of the game, you get points equal to all of your humans and ships left. But it's hard to have a lot of humans and ships left over. Having a bunch of ships left over is actually not that hard. Having a ton of humans left over, relatively hard. Again, this loops into a lot of how I'm tending to play and like what tends to work very well, but you tend to get pretty constrained on how many humans you have left. Also, having a ton of ships left makes it hard to produce humans. Also, having a ton of ships on the board means like you probably put a lot of humans on your, like, they're sitting on your tech track, so how many humans do you even have that can be sitting as ship cubes at the end of the game? You only have 20 cubes. Are 9 of your cubes at the end of the game really humans and ships? Or are even more than that sitting on techs or still on your board? the actual ability here is pretty bad. Do you actually have a bunch of low-level ships that are like sitting together such that you can assimilate them? Hopefully not. You don't really want a bunch of low-level ships and move them about into the same location just so they can merge together. So the ability tends to be pretty bad. This is not a card that I pick almost ever. I've seen it have one or two crazy cool end games where it turns out it is the right pick and people do get the whole 9 points off of it. So it's not so awful that it's like unplayable, but it's rarely the card you're actually picking. New Golden Age. New Golden Age is very good. It might be better than Tech Singularity, but hey Killzor, welcome. It might be better than Tech Singularity, but they're basically equivalent. New Golden Age lets you automate a disc, and then at the end of the game, you get 1 bonus point for each of your first 7 automation levels. If you've had a good game where you've found a bunch of automation, which often happens, especially if you're on a green research track, because green just has a lot of automation bonuses. This thing says get an immediate automate, and then essentially get to double score all of the rest of your automation. That's just very solid. The immediate benefit's not great, but it's solid. It's good. It loops into the other thing. This is good. This is reasonably often what I'm like. This is usually what I'm hunting for when I'm hunting green. If I'm picking green, it's probably because I want to find New Golden Age as my tech level 4 green. Yeah. All right, Galactic Empire. Galactic Empire gives us an immediate level 4 ship at any location. That's pretty good. The problem with Galactic Empire is it's going to give us points at the end of the game for each of our discs on our colonized systems and on the exploration board, up to a maximum of 8. The problem here is this, again, is not our game, right? Like, if we're heavily pursuing and researching at tech level 4, what is the chance that we've also colonized a bunch of systems and have a bunch of discs on colonized systems and on the board? Pretty low. We probably don't have that many discs on colonized systems or on the board. And so Galactic Empire often is like, here's a level 4 ship and like 3 or 4 points. Now, in some games, it's still pretty good. If you've actually been doing some colonization and then get to research at tech level 4, Galactic Empire is pretty powerful. It's just that's relatively rare that it's going to happen. So this is usually the card that I'm least happy to see when I'm researching yellow tech. This is also the reason that I almost am never picking red to research at tech level 4, because I might hit Mind Machine Assimilation and Galactic Empire, despite having not I probably don't have the setup for either of those. Whereas, again, part of what's so powerful about things like Tech Singularity or New Golden Age is if I've been researching a bunch of greens and blues and I'm researching at tech level 4, it's very likely that things like Tech Singularity and New Golden Age or even Parallel Universe Generator like loop into what I've already been doing, and they're going to be pretty good. Whereas this has no guarantee this is even any good at all. So you played Beyond the Sun a long time ago, before it came out. It didn't click at the time, but seeing you enjoyed the game so much, you might give it a second chance. I'd recommend giving it a second chance. I mean, it's entirely reasonable that you still aren't going to click with it or like it that much, but I think Beyond the Sun's pretty dang good, as evidenced by the fact that I'm making a hour 45 video talking about Beyond the Sun or some crazy thing. Yeah. Anyhow, continuing talking, I only have a couple of tech level 4s left before we actually can wrap the video. Android Independence. Android Independence gives us an immediate 2 humans from our rightmost boxes, which can be kind of cool. This can help you hit certain achievements, namely Posthumanist, which asks you to get get down to 2 boxes or less. This can clear out some of the most pesky, annoying boxes that are hard to get off your board. The ability is from now on, you require 2 fewer military power to colonize system. This is a cool idea, but we already talked about this with Terra Nova cruisers. It's relatively hard to use this ability because you still have to control the system in order to colonize it. This does sometimes mean, though, that you can like use a low-level ship to colonize the system, and then you get to like keep your high-level ship to keep like moving around. The cool part of Android Independence is that you just get 6 points at the end of the game. No fuss. You just get a guaranteed 6 points, and you get an immediate 2 humans. An immediate 2 humans and 6 immediate points. We don't even care about this other tech. The fact that this has other words on it barely matters. Like, this part rarely comes up. But 2 immediate humans and 6 points, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy finding this usually. It's usually not the best find, but it's not the worst find. Like, it's just good points, and again, that immediate benefit can be pretty huge. Again, a lot of times you can already be struggling a bit for humans, and then especially if you have to research your Tech 4 off of something like metahuman chambers, you might have a very difficult time having like the people to keep taking actions on your future turns. Boom, you hit this, you get immediate people, you produce ore, now you get to like continue rolling through the end game. So anyhow, I'm quite happy about Android Independence. So again, we see a green that we're relatively happy to hit. We see New Golden Age as the green we probably want to hit, but we're willing to settle for Android Independence. If we have to, we can settle for Gigacorps, and we never have to play Mind Machine Assimilation off of green. We should, before we talk about the other colors, we should finish off here. Ministry of Colonies is the pure yellow. You draw the top 2 cards of System Deck A, you colonize one of them for free, and you do get its colonization bonuses. You do get to put discs also, but you ignore the gain control effects. The gain control effects are the things that you would normally get when you move your ships onto a system and gain control. You don't get those, but you do get the like regular bonus, you get the points, and you get discs out. Now, most of the points off of deck level A are 5 points. So this is 5 points, plus a couple of discs out, which can help your production, and whatever little bonus you find as the colonization bonus of that colony. This is reasonably good. Also, Ministry of Colonies, it's giving you a colony, which can be very useful for certain achievements. It's probably not helping you make the Empire achievement of having 4 systems colonized, because again, that's not usually our game plan. But this could be a very powerful way to sneak the... I can't come up with the name of it off the top of my head. There's an achievement that requires you to have 4 automated discs, 2 tech level 3s, and 2 colonized systems. That's a pretty hard achievement to like meet. You need to do a bunch of stuff. But this is a fun shortcut to getting there. You already have 2 tech level 3s, you research, you hit Ministry of Colonies, now you have that colony, you probably already have the automated discs, you have the tech level 3s, now you only need to colonize like 1 more system, maybe you've already colonized 1 system, now you get to hit that achievement, and you're still hitting the Transcendence achievement. You do still have to do them on separate turns, obviously, but anyhow, the Ministry of Colonies can be kind of cool for helping to hit other achievements. There's other achievements too that care about how many discs you have out, right? Like Ministry of Colonies, part of the benefit of is it often is helping you hit other achievements. If it's not, it's only okay. If it is helping you hit other achievements, it's pretty good. So the fact that I have it pretty middling on this list is because sometimes it is kind of only okay. It's probably only 5 points and then maybe a little bit of immediate benefit. But some games it's like 5 points plus some achievements and other stuff. And then it's one of your better options. Researching off of yellow can be a little bit dangerous. So that's the only other reason that we're not super excited about it. The yellow things are Android Independence, which we're usually happy to hit. Parallel Universe Generator, which we sometimes are not that happy to hit because we might not be getting that many achievements. Ministry of Colonies, which is always like okay-ish. And then Galactic Empire, which is sometimes a nothing. So yellow is slightly dangerous to research off of. Red, again, red is usually not the color we want to research off of. These bottom 3 are all red. The only good red is Neo-Industrial Revolution on average. Blue, we're usually very happy to do. Both of our top 2 on this list are blue. Otherwise, you can usually settle for Parallel Universe Generator or Gigacorps and get an okay number of points. Like the bad side of blue is usually not too bad. And then same thing with green. with green, we're hitting, new Golden Age or Android Independence, or if we have to, we settle for Gigacorps. We never actually have to pick Mind Machine Assimilation. So a lot of times when I'm doing tech level 4, I'm often picking blue because blue has the most upside. I sometimes am picking green, sometimes I'm picking yellow, almost never picking red. Those are my thoughts. Looping back to chat quick, Killzor, your two favorite games are Agricola and Gaia Project. I love them both. I love Terra Mystica anyways. I still like Gaia, but I don't quite love Gaia. But I agree. I think our tastes align quite a bit, so I agree. Give Beyond the Sun another try or two. See how you feel about it. But you may just not love it, and that's fine. Okay. Anyhow, we've now talked through every tech in a game of Beyond the Sun. Again, my thing glitches when I scroll it, which is weird. But we've talked through all of these techs. There's really not that many techs in a game of Beyond the Sun, so I mean there's quite a few, but as you start playing you do kind of start to get used to this, and then you kind of even know what you're hunting for. Personally, part of the skill of the game to me is like knowing some of what you can hit and like trying to set yourself up in a position for it. Every once in a while you will have games where you just like consistently don't find good technologies, and that can be a bit brutal, but those are relatively rare, and they're even rarer when you know kind of what's coming and what you can set up for, and know some of the kind of less used combinations that can make some of these better than they otherwise would be. Otherwise playing Beyond the Sun well is partly also understanding like what's better on average and how to win on average, and I think this list will generally help people do a bit better. So I will try to post this list into the YouTube video once I upload it, so that it's also just there right in the description. Please, anybody who's watching almost a 2-hour strategy content video for Beyond the Sun, hopefully this has been useful. In particular, I know Patrick asked for this, so hopefully he has a chance to watch this later and enjoy. Hopefully it's somewhat useful, and hopefully all my blabbing is entertaining to some. And I hope to see more people playing Beyond the Sun and giving it a go, and love to run into some games online here on BGA. Appreciate y'all. Feel free to reach out on my Discord, on my YouTube, or on BGG, and I'll try to get back to you with any other questions or strategy stuff. I don't know when I'll have the chance next, but I'm hoping to find time to stream a game or two of Beyond the Sun and get those uploaded within a few days or weeks after making this video also, just so that that way we can kind of see a couple playthroughs of Beyond the Sun too, and see a lot of this kind of strategy thought in action along with this kind of tier list. Maybe I'll even try to have the tier list up to kind of explain some of my actions and decisions as I go through the game, and just to see how accurate my tier list is. How often am I picking a tech higher on the list? How often am I subverting my own list? Would be kind of interesting. So we'll see if I actually have the time or ability to do that soon, but that'd be cool. So hopefully I will, but we'll find out. Thanks so much for those that have watched, hung out, chatted, etc. over time. I hope this is useful to some, and I hope to see people around. For those who are used to my usual Agricola or whatever action, hopefully I'll get around to some of that here too in the next week or so, but we'll find out. Thanks all. Heading off. See y'all later.